Welcome everyone. In this tutorial, I've got a one-column layout and I want to apply some background graphics. But I want to do it, I don't want to experiment with different kinds of background graphics and what we can do. So there's a lot of properties we can take advantage of. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a background image to this page, and we're going to try out different techniques of displaying background images, different ways you can play with the background image on a web page. And it's all going to make use of some Photoshop images I've created and maximized. We're going to look at one image at a time, what I did with the image, and how we can put it onto our page. All right, in Photoshop, in my first image, I have a very, very subtle gradient. I've made this a very wide image, but not very tall. The idea here is it's got a gradient. I'd like to have this thing just basically fill up the background. I'm going to tile it from top to bottom. And I'm going to start with this color over here. And the far color over here is actually this color. And I'm going to make sure the background color of my body matches that. So I'm going to get the color code exactly from there. So I need to go back to the color picker. And I can see there's my color code. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy that. And then I'm going to go ahead and export this image into my folder where I have everything saved. So if you're using Photoshop, I like Save for Web and Devices. That way I get to choose the image. I get to see how big it's going to be. We're really trying to keep our file sizes small. So we're going to try a JPEG medium that's only 514 bytes. It is 1020 pixels wide by 30 pixels high. So I'm just going to save that into the folder where I have my work, and that is not the folder I'm looking for. This is the folder I'm looking for. I'm going to apply it to my one-column layout folder, and I have an images folder for this express purpose. So we're going to call this background. In my case, I'm just going to call it background 1 just to keep it simple, and I'm going to click save. So I got my background image. I've got the color code. I want to go back to Notepad++. On the left, you see the HTML file, and I want to point out a couple of things here. You want to see what HTML you're using to see what you can target. So we're going to target the body with the color and the background image. And then I want to talk about this thing called the wrapper in just a moment. So we're going to target body. This is in a style sheet called layout.css. And we're going to give it a background color. And we're going to save our changes. We'll take a look at the page. Hit refresh. Color has just changed. Good, I can still read my text. And now I'm going to add a background image. URL. My folder, by the way, is called images, and I'm running out of space here, so I'm just going to drag this over here. Images/background1.jpg. By the way, background, all my students tend to misspell this. They call it background, but it's actually a ground in the back, so there you have it. All right, background image, background, repeat. And this is the key here. We want that image to tile from top to bottom. So we're going to give a background repeat of repeat Y, because we're going to repeat the image along the Y axis. Also, we're going to do a background position of left top. Left to right, top to bottom, save our changes. Now, if I save my image in the right place, when I hit refresh, I should have that gradient. It's a fairly subtle gradient, but you can kind of see it there. If you don't think so, we can darken the left-hand side. And I can pick the next color up, click OK. I got my gradient tool already. I'm going to click over here, shift over, and you see it's a little bit more exaggerated. So let's just go ahead and save over that file. Background run, 1, double click, replace. Just by replacing it, now I can test it. And you can see the background gradient was indeed working. Now you can't see a difference from top to bottom where the image ends and begins. That's because it's, one, it's tiling top to bottom, but two, notice the top of this image is the same as the bottom. It makes it really easy. Now I'm going to undo what I just did here because I want to get that other color back. Let's take a look at some other options we have for background images while I just double click and replace that. Okay, that's a tiling from top to bottom. What about a left to right tile? Well, guess what? I have one of those right here. Now, take a look at this particular one. We have an image pattern at the top with a little bit of color, and it works like a little header border there. But then the rest of it is a very subtle gradient again, just of a color slightly getting whiter and whiter as it goes. I'm going to say this is background 2. This one is designed to tile from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So now we're going to do a save for web and devices. Save this one here as background 2. Keeping all the images so you can see how that works. Save your changes. Now, we're going to go into here, and instead of actually, well, we'll just go ahead and do it this way. We're going to change background 1 to background 2, save my changes. I should probably change the color as well. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop, scroll to the bottom, get my eyedropper tool, click at the very bottom, and there's my color. I can get the color code right here, copy that. Now, why am I doing that? The reason I'm doing that is I want to make sure that if my page gets extra long, that background image will just blend right into the background color. Now, we don't want to repeat Y. This time we're going to repeat from left to right, so it becomes repeat X. So we save our changes. Let's go back to the page. Before we had that gradient from left to right, I hit refresh, and now I have a new style for my layout, and it's just a seamless trend. Okay, so all I did was, to do this, I created a really long document. I took the marquee tool, drew a little box for the top, and then all I did was apply a color to it, and I applied a filter, which I think was texturizer was the filter I applied. And I just applied one that would just be kind of a subtle texture. You take a look at the page, pretty decent. In fact, my header and my tagline pretty much fit in there. And as soon as I get a navigation bar, I could probably get that navigation bar to fit in there as well. So you can tell easily that this is going to work. Now I'm going to zoom out just to show. If I zoom really far out, that image ends somewhere around here. But you can't tell where it ends because I blended the background color to match that.